You're listening to the Teens for the Nation podcast. Let's get right into this. Hey guys, welcome back to Teens for the Nation. Your host, Cade McLemore, and your co-host,
Thomas.
Alright, we got Thomas over here, and today we are featuring a very special guest, Mr.
Noah Hinton.
We got Mr. Noah Hinton. I'm not putting applause over that. Anywho,
TT Cheerful.
we're going to kick this off with an icebreaker before we start talking about Jesus. Go ahead, Thomas, hit us.
What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
And you're asking me this, not Cade?
Yes.
Cade has plenty of material.
No.
Which one am I going to use?
Alright, no, I am myself every day, and that's pretty embarrassing. Just kidding. So when... Y'all can probably attest to this, because y'all have been here the whole time I've been doing worship and whatnot, but when I first started to sing, and maybe this is all in my head, but I feel like I would just sing all the time and not sound good at all, and I would get embarrassed in the moment, and then I just kept doing it because nobody told me to stop. Y'all probably should have, but
Sounds about right.
look where it got us now. So I can remember many Wednesday nights and stuff like that where I felt really embarrassed, even though it probably wasn't that bad. And actually, no, it probably was.
I can't recall a single bad time, but hey, that's your own embarrassment.
Hey, everybody's embarrassed of their own things. For example, you'll listen back to this and you'll be embarrassed, but
Yeah.
I will. But probably one of the most embarrassing things that I've done
we'll be
is
here all day.
probably doing some crazy stuff in our youth. That's probably one of the biggest
We've done
things,
a lot
to
of
be
that,
honest.
yeah.
But my most embarrassing thing, I probably will be blatantly honest with you, was in kindergarten. I literally did poop my pants.
That is awesome.
And I had to run out the classroom to the nurse's office, and that was probably the funniest thing that I've ever done. But it was the most embarrassing because all the kids were just dead-eye staring at me,
That was
speechless.
Cade's peak. Cade peaked in kindergarten.
That was my high spot. But anywho, Thomas?
Oh, my most embarrassing thing? Oh, no. So, I don't remember. I think it was back in 20-something, but it was before I accepted Jesus. I was playing this video game, and my sister had said something to me that my mom had told my sister, I guess to get me or whatever. And I was in the middle of playing a game, and this was before I was a Christian. And myself wasn't thinking, I cussed her, and my mom heard it somehow.
Uh-oh.
And I just
Your
got
mama
done.
beat you, didn't she?
I just got done. She poured dish soap down my mouth,
Oh.
and I just puked all over the place.
What did you eat?
I ate hamburger helper.
Oh, that's crazy. That's actually crazy.
TT wins best story of the day.
All right, we're going to give the award to Thomas for that one.
That was... Wow.
All right, well, let's get right into this, Noah. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is how you came to Jesus, or when you really got close with Jesus, because I know you kind of grown up in the church for quite a while. But when was like your time when you really started getting close with Jesus?
So, well, I'll just start at the beginning. So I accepted Jesus, for our audio listeners, I did air quotes, because when I was like 8 or 9, and you know, everybody has that thing when you grow up in the church where you like accept Jesus as a kid, and you get baptized and do all that, which I don't regret, love it, and glad I did. But then there comes a point where you start having to make your own decisions and deal with your own problems. So I would say when I really started to seek after Jesus on my own, and it wasn't just like, oh, look at me, I go to church, and you know, I'm a kid who goes to church, I'm so good. That probably shifted around. How old am I? It's probably like 2 or 3 years ago. But even then, it's taken a lot of growth, because you never get it right the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time. You know.
Yeah.
There's a million times I have to go back to Jesus and say, okay, look, I'm not perfect, you know, we're all human, and so, but yeah, in the past few years, I've definitely grown a lot.
Yeah, I definitely think that we all have some experience where we've all accepted Jesus, but we definitely have that peak moment where we come back, and it's a pretty big moment in your life. So I want to kind of jump into your calling, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What is your calling?
My calling, is music. I mean, I keep saying like y'all already know that, but I forget we're talking to people who don't know that. So, so I lead worship for youth, and now I'm starting to lead worship on Sunday mornings for big church too. I still call it big church as if I'm not one of them.
I think I still have that habit, unfortunately.
As if I'm not a member myself. But so that's my calling. It's not necessarily like a full-time ministry thing or a career I want to pursue, at least at the moment. God hasn't told me to do that, but I still, consider myself called, because I have been called to step up, at least now, where I am, and lead in a musical capacity, because that's what I love, and God puts those desires to do the things we love in us, and so might as well use it for Him.
That's really awesome. How did you know you were called, or when did that really happen?
So I've been playing music forever, as long as I can remember, and honestly, it was never something like it's not like I learned it just to do it for the church or anything, but I remember one Wednesday, I always tell this story, when our youth pastor, Pastor Eugene, literally just shoved a guitar in my hand and said, "You're playing tonight," and I was like, no, I don't want to do this, but I did, and it was fun, and I loved it, and I kept doing it, and then there came a time where, honestly, I can't really tell you a specific date or time, it was just over time, I started to feel God pulling at my heart saying, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing, because there were a few moments, like at camps and stuff, where, I'd really hear Him say, like, keep going, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and, just over time, it's been solidified.
Yeah, I definitely can understand that. A lot of times I always hear God, and He's always like, now don't forget, you still have this calling, He definitely reminds you. That's really awesome. It's great.
Okay, I got a question for you. How long did it take you to get equipped for your calling?
My entire life. And that's not even an exaggeration. I've been, so y'all know my dad. He's played music, since I've been born. I've been around music, and so be it, singing as a kid or playing guitar. For our audio listeners, I did air quotes again, playing guitar as a kid. The first thing I really started to do music on my own was when I took piano lessons, and I hated it. Not because I didn't like playing the piano, I love playing the piano, but I wasn't learning what I wanted to, so I kind of just got off of that, and for years taught myself everything I know now, and so literally my entire life I've been just learning and growing, and I still got a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a question that I've been having. Are you willing to use your God-given gifts to glorify God, or were you just going to use it to glorify yourself? If you get, like...
Dang, you just calling me out, like, you gonna be someone with those gifts? Like, I was gonna get hard questions today. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah.
All right. No.
We're just getting started.
No, definitely glorify God, because, the Bible says you don't use them, you lose them. And so, use it for His glory, not for our own glory. As fun as it is, I'll be honest, to use it for my own glory. I love playing music and impressing the girls.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
No, that's a myth. Guitar does not get you girls, all right? It gets you friends like these.
Oh, come on now.
Just kidding.
That's
just
funny.
kidding. All right, but seriously, use it for God. That goes for any calling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good answer. I mean, like you were saying, it is easy to, when you're getting all the glory and everything, to keep it, but, it's not about you, it's about where you...
It's the same with your preaching or Kate's guitar playing.
Yeah.
And it's all
By the
same.
end of the day, I just want to know that I give God all the glory.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think, when you're preaching, obviously, that's kind of one of those things where, it's hard not to use it for your own glory unless you just have a real gift of speaking in front of people. But when it comes to guitar playing, you really have to set set aside time and really understand that that's all for God. It's not for yourself.
Oh, yeah, because anytime you're on a stage in front of people, people's attention is at you, and it's hard to not as a human, it's just hard to not be like, oh, look, they're looking at me.
Yeah. And a couple questions I just kind of want to throw in. Where do you see yourself right now in the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, and if you really feel like God has shown you that, I mean, if not, that's okay. But I mean, like,
well, so I am a senior, and TT can attest to this. So when you're a senior, it's all about what are you going to do, what are you going to do.
Okay, so how about the next 1 year?
Well, no, not even talking about that, but I'm just saying I've been thinking about this a lot because I have to, because, the next steps I take will determine, my whole life, and that's a lot to deal with. But I do really feel like I'll still be doing music in some capacity. I really want to do. That's what I want to do.
Kind of like the bivocational area,
I don't know about leading worship. I don't know. That'll have to take it as it comes, I guess, because God really, it's not like God is like, hey, you're going to be the worship pastor at this church in 1 year, He's never that clear. But when he is, you better listen, all right?
Yeah.
But, so no, still not exactly sure, but trust me, I'll be doing music in some capacity.
Yeah. I really like that. That's really good. One thing I wanted to make sure that we do is, what is one thing from your experience in ministry and your experience in worship ministry and how you've grown up in the church, for somebody that is listening to this that has only gone to church maybe one Sunday in their entire life, what is one thing you would want to tell them?
Well, first of all, if you've only gone to church one Sunday in your entire life, I cannot identify with you much because I've been there my whole life. But that doesn't matter, honestly. Whether this is your first time hearing about Jesus or your 100th time or your 1,000th time or your 1,000,000th time, your calling is still as important as anyone else's is because God has unique things for each of us. And so just really listen to what he has to say and don't think that you're any less than, some big megachurch preacher or some big worship leader just because you don't have the same experience, air quotes once again, as they do, Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I really like where God has taken you. I really do like where you've come from. I like your family. I like you. You're a great guy. I'm glad to see God is working in you still to this day. And I'm glad to call you my worship leader.
And the same goes for both of y'all.
Yeah. But, I really thank you for being on this podcast. It means a lot. TT's
having an aneurysm over here. Did we miss something?
Did we miss something?
Yeah, I just had one question.
What's up?
How do you think your relationship with God is right now? Do you think it needs to be stronger, or do you think it's perfectly fine where it's at?
Well, actually, like that's a good question for the end. It's never strong enough, all right? I mean, you always can get closer and closer to God. Even Jesus, who was God, still went and fasted and prayed and spent time with the Father because he wanted to be closer to him. So you always have somewhere else to go. That's what I have to tell myself.
That's awesome. Well, I had to throw this in there just because I'm still growing, and I definitely... what is one of the biggest reasons that you wanted to be on this podcast? I mean, I messaged you probably, maybe not even a week ago.
I was going to say, the second you posted something about it, I was like, you need somebody on there, I'll come.
Yeah.
Because I think this is just, it's a good idea. One, I've always loved podcasts and listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
But I've never wanted to start one because I think people who just start podcasts are idiots. That I'm not talking about y'all, all right?
Oh, Lord.
If your podcast has a purpose, that's great. And I feel like y'all really do have a purpose, especially the way you've been talking about it, Kate. So I was like, heck yeah, I would be honored to come on and be your first guest, huh?
Yeah.
Woo! I'm going to hold that title forever.
This is actually my first official episode, as I teased this earlier today on my Instagram, which you can go check that out at Teens for the Nation on Instagram.
Shameless plugs.
But this is my first official podcast featuring Noah Hinton.
Yep. Your first podcast period, so I'll take it. Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely honored to have you on here. Thank you so much, and that concludes today's podcast. Y'all have a wonderful Sunday evening, and y'all have a great day.